Hello, welcome to another episode of Seeds of Flourishing. So, I've got a bit of an ongoing project, as I'd mentioned in previous episodes, where I'm digging through consciousness studies, and at the moment I'm working my way through the sort of backwaters of Wikipedia. And I'll show you in a moment how that came about, which might possibly lead into another episode related to Python programming, if anybody's interested. But anyway, I'll get the first bit out of the way, and we'll talk a little bit about Python and the Wikipedia API towards the end of this episode. So anyway, in the process of my investigations, I stumbled across this word, Merkwelt, which I hadn't come across before. I'd come across the concept, which we'll talk a little bit about in a moment, but I didn't know there was a specific German word, like a loan word, that could be used. So Merkwelt. Now, we're probably, as English speakers, familiar with a number of German loan words already. One is Zeitgeist. So world spirit. Another one that I came across a number of years ago was the one associated with worldview, when I was teaching systems analysis as part of a management information systems course, and this was the word Weltanschauung, I think that is Weltanschauung, which is composed of Welt, world, and Anschauung, which is perception or view. It was another word until then I'd not really seen in day-to-day usage. So this is another one connected with view, Merkwelt. So meaning the way of viewing the world, particular individual consciousness. And this is why it was of interest to me when I'm going through the backwaters of consciousness studies. So it's a concept in robotics, ethology and biology that describes a creature or android's capacity to view things, manipulate information and synthesize to make meaning out of the universe. So in biology, for example, a shark's Merkwelt, for instance, is dominated by smell due to its enlarged olfactory lobes, whilst a bat's is dominated by its hearings, especially at ultrasonic frequencies. The term was particularly developed by the German biologist Jacob von Uexküll, I think that is, Uexküll, who framed it as part of his theory of Umwelt. So we have another word there to quickly look at. This basically stated that any living observer of the broader environment, or Umwelt, through their particular Werkwelt, or mechanical viewing, that is to say the organs through which they view the world, their eyes, ears, mouth, etc. in humans, and electrical sensors in sharks, for instance, could have a Merkwelt or perceptual universe. The term has not achieved wide currency, but has been used by several influential writers, including the ethologist Nicholas Tinberg and the roboticist Rodney Brooks. So, as we're in here, so Umwelt, environment or surroundings, the biological foundations that lie at the very epicenter of study of both communication and signification in the human and non-human animal. So how did I come to discover this particular term? Well, what it was, recently, I think last weekend, I've been working on, I suppose you could call it, like, I often refer these to as Python one pages, where I'm, thinking about doing something useful in Python. In this case, I was dabbling with using the Wikipedia API to do certain things, and I discovered a particular request that you could issue to the Wikipedia API, which would come back with related articles based on a particular search term. So I just threw this together in a couple of hours one evening, and basically all it does is I wrote a little function, and it just interrogates the API, if you like, using the particular request, comes back with 10 related articles, and then it finds 10 of those 10. So just to show you very basically how it works, let's pick a word rather than me try and type it in. Let's pick this word, semiotics. So this is one where I was actually looking up the word Merkwelt. I actually discovered this through feeding in consciousness and then feeding in another term that I found, and then in going and looking on an article for that term, I ended up at Merkwelt, but that's how I ended up there in the first place. So if I do this, you can see roughly how it works. So from the front end, it just prints out that, so it just has the 10 related items at the top, or the related articles at the top, and then for each of those 10 it does another search and returns the 10 based on that one. We've got some stuff under biosemiotics here as well. And you'll probably notice, if you're familiar with Python code, and of course I'm not saying this is a great example of how to code in Python, it's just basically the result of 2 hours of fiddling around with prototyping and bouncing in and out of Python worksheets and various other things to experiment with the API. But what I'm also done is I saved to a file. So I have this little research folder, and you can see some of the stuff I've been fiddling around with already. And if I go down here to the one I just created, you'll basically see what it ends up writing. So there's the original search term when I performed it, and then there's the stuff that came up on the screen, just saved to a file. Nice thing with this as well, the way particular version of the write command that I've used, if it's in the process of this, it uses a file that already exists. I'm using the append command here, so it simply writes to the end, and it's quite nice then with having this date stamp, because then what I can do is just it just appends it to the bottom. And if I say I've done searches on different days for the same thing, it'll also allow me to notice where maybe the relationships have changed as more articles get added to Wikipedia, and stuff sort of bubbles up that might be more important. But I thought they'd just be interesting to see, and I'm finding it just fascinating just going in. I mean, I've ended up through doing some searches related to, I think, spam filtering. I come across a term like the Scunthorpe problem, which I was aware of what the problem is, I just didn't know it was called the Scunthorpe problem, and that's to do with email filtering, or basically filtering of any sort. And yeah, you can sort of see here there's a number of different things I've been fiddling around with based on the sort of videos I'm currently been doing on YouTube and various other things I'm interested in. So there's some band stuff there. There's music related or album related searches and so on. So thanks once again for watching. Hope you found this brief diversion, I suppose, into into consciousness study terms useful, and it also gives you a behind the scenes idea of like how I do some of the research that I do on various subject areas. And as I've said, if you're interested in me doing a bit more of a deeper dive into, doing Python with APIs, particularly the Wikipedia one, then yeah, that'll give me something to think about if anybody is interested. So thanks once again for watching. Bye for now, and I will catch you in the next episode.